Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to Authors Behaving Badly Fundy Edition. Today's author behaving badly is Billy Graham. Even if you're not fundy, you may have heard of Billy Graham because he was incredibly involved in politics, even though he would not have said it that way for PR reasons. And his son Franklin Graham is still alive and still speaking out loud. God help us. William Franklin Graham Jr. is Billy Graham's full name, and he was born in 1918. He was an American evangelical pastor affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention, or affiliated with the Southern Baptist sect of Fundyland. He became incredibly popular in the 1940s. Yes, he was very old. He died at 100 years old. He was very prominent in American politics, but he traveled all over the world evangelizing. He was one of the most influential Christians of the 20th century. Trigger warning though for anti-Semitism, religion in general. We're going to talk about Christianity, but there also is Islamophobia that I'm going to mention later. Again, I cannot stress, like, the anti-Semitism is pretty gross. There's also homophobia and some racism. So take care of yourself. If you don't want to watch, I understand. Billy Graham is an author, which is why he qualifies for an Authors Behaving Badly Fundy Edition. He authored a shit ton of books. So he started writing books. His first one came out in 1947 and his last one came out in 2015. So there's a lot of them, like a lot of fucking books by Billy Graham. I have never read any of them, but my family has a ton of them on the shelf. Billy Graham would hold enormous, both indoor and outdoor events where he would evangelize to people. He was also on radio and television. Like, his sermons were getting out there. He hosted what was called the Billy Graham Crusades, which, yes, I was in attendance at one point, which was just basically a campaign of him going out to different cities and different countries and trying to win souls for Jesus. He did this from 1947 until he retired in 2005. According to the website of his that is still going, Billy Graham preached to live audiences of 210 million people in more than 185 countries and territories. My own sister says that she officially gave her life for Christ at a Billy Graham Crusade event that we went to here in Tampa, Florida at Raymond James Stadium in 1998. I still remember this very vividly. His events were enormous. He was enormous. Billy Graham is completely woven into my fundy upbringing in a variety of ways, and I think that a lot of us who grew up in Fundyland experience that. I assume that a lot of fundies are going to be very mad about this video. I don't give a fuck about your opinions. I'm just gonna delete them because I don't care. Just because he was more palatable than certain other fundy pastors does not mean that he did not do wrong and have a legacy of harm that he never had any accountability for. Billy Graham is extremely well known even today, even though he died in 2018 at the age of 100. He left behind a legacy that most people talk about fondly. Even Obama called him a humble servant who prayed for and people, and with wisdom and grace gave hope and guidance to generations of Americans. But Billy Graham, in my opinion, did more harm than good, because I don't think that winning souls for Jesus is a net good. I don't think that that's a positive or negative thing. I think it's just a thing. I don't think evangelism is a good, and it certainly doesn't outweigh the harm. He gets points for being somewhat anti-segregation, but people are willing to give him so much credit for being anti-segregation that they ignore the harm that he still did that was still racist. I'm only willing to give him as much credit as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did. Graham's earlier, the Crusades, used to be segregated, but then he adjusted this and changed it in the 1950s. At one point in Tennessee, he tore down the ropes that organizers had set up in order to, like, segregate the audience into different, white and black. He tore them down and, said, we're not segregating. In his memoir, he said that he told ushers to leave the barriers down, or you can go on and have the revival without me, is what he says that he said at the time. And he told his white audience, we have been proud and thought that we were better than any other race, any other people. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to stumble into hell because of our pride. So as you can see, it's not really about doing the right thing because it is right. It is about doing the religious thing because he thinks that his religion is right. In the late 1950s, he allowed more black pastors to serve as members of his crusade committee in New York. He invited MLK Jr. to join him in the pulpit in New York City. He met MLK at the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955, and millions heard Graham and Martin Luther King speak. Graham said in his own autobiography that he and Dr. King formed a close friendship and that he like could refer to Dr. King as Mike. And when Dr. King died, he said that the US had lost a social leader when he was assassinated, I should say, when Dr. King was assassinated. But their friendship, if it was indeed a friendship, was not without contention. Sure, allegedly Billy Graham posted bail when Dr. King was arrested, but in 1958 in San Antonio there was an event with Billy Graham where he was introduced by Price Daniel, the governor, who was a massive segregationist. Just the year before, Price Daniel, the governor, was given the power to immediately close any school where federal troops may have been sent in to enforce segregation. He was a segregationist, and Dr. King sent a letter to Billy Graham saying that having Price Daniel introduce him at this event can well be interpreted as your endorsement of racial segregation and discrimination. And Graham's advisor Grady Wilson replied to Dr. King saying, even though we do not see eye to eye with him on every issue, we still love him in Christ. But this made Dr. King feel like, I can't hold joint conventions with you in the Deep South because you are working with segregationists. But later on, King did say that he felt that Graham did take a strong stance against segregation. However, Dr. King was chastised by Billy Graham because Dr. King did not support the Vietnam War. And Billy Graham was like, you can't criticize US foreign policy. And Dr. King was like, yes, I fucking can. Graham's ideas of race and segregation were entirely informed by his religion. He told a member of the Ku Klux Klan that desegregating, integrating was necessary, but he cited his religion as the reason. He said there's no scriptural base for segregation. He said, the ground at the foot of the cross is level. It touches my heart when I see whites standing shoulder to shoulder with blacks at the cross. By the way, don't say blacks like that. People used to say that, but language evolves. I don't think he was ever doing the right thing for the right reason, which explains why Billy Graham refused to participate in the 1963 March on Washington with Dr. King. And he dismissed King's beliefs that protests could create a community where black children and white children could play together and hold hands. In fact, Graham criticized this and responded by saying, only when Christ comes again will little white children of Alabama walk hand in hand with little black children. Okay, as we can see, he is always going to prioritize his religion over doing the right thing. Graham chastised and said that civil disobedience wasn't okay, specifically talking about what happened in Selma. He chastised Dr. King for trying to change law and policy, which is so fucking hypocritical because Billy Graham himself would never have admitted this for PR reasons, but he went on to try to be a fucking puppet master in politics. He really loved to claim bipartisanship, and his carefully painted legacy somehow still upholds this, which is disgusting. But he was very obviously partisan. Maybe not much as his son Franklin, fuck that guy, but partisan nonetheless. Harry Truman actually called him out, saying Graham is one of those counterfeits and all he's interested in is getting his name in the newspaper. But he did get in good with President Eisenhower and President Nixon in particular, and Nixon and Billy Graham said some really awful anti-Semitic shit behind closed doors, which I will get to in a second, but I want to talk a little bit about like what he did before that. So when Nixon was up against John F. Kennedy, Graham said that if Kennedy was a real Catholic, he was going to do whatever the Pope wanted him to do rather than what the Constitution says, which is so fucking hilariously hypocritical, because isn't that what you did about fucking segregation? You said that segregation was wrong because of your religion. You're always going to put your religion first and shit on everybody else's religion. By the way, this is a great example of how fundies, evangelical fundies, do not consider Catholics to be real Christians. Billy Graham is a great example of that, going back even to the 1960s. Graham created a meeting of pastors in Switzerland to discuss how to keep him, a Catholic, out of the White House. And yet Graham sends Kennedy a letter, a really nice letter, saying, I'll support you if you win. I won't bring up the religious thing. Fucking sleaze bag. After Kennedy was assassinated, Graham went on to get in good with Lyndon Johnson. And he used this relationship with Johnson, really disgustingly justified Johnson's escalation of war and hostility in Vietnam. Billy Graham was the one excusing it for religious reasons. In 1969, Nixon is finally in the Oval Office, finally for Billy Graham. For the rest of us, yuck. And Billy Graham tells Nixon, you should bomb the shit out of Vietnam. And Nixon was like, like, that's gonna kill a whole fucking lot of people. And Graham was like, yeah, you should do it. So the fact that he was like telling everybody, I'm so bipartisan. You are a warmonger. You are a shit human. You owe Vietnam an apology. This was around 1972, and actually other things were happening in 1972, which didn't come out until later, but there were tapes, and this is what the tape said. Nixon, Newsweek is totally, it's all run by Jews and dominated by them in their editorial pages. The New York Times, Washington Post, totally Jewish too. Graham, the stranglehold has got to be broken or the country's going to go down the drain. Nixon, you believe that? Graham, yes sir. Nixon, oh boy, so do I. I can't ever say that, but I believe it. Graham, no, but if you get elected a second time, then we might be able to do something. Do something about the Jewish folks owning newspapers, which they saw as a problem because they were Jewish. This is the Christian hero. Like, oh, fuck this guy. He wasn't just anti-Semitic and pro-war and racist because of his religion. He was also homophobic, wildly so. In 1974, a woman wrote to Graham talking about the fact that she was attracted to women. He answered her first by quoting Paul, who in his letter to the Corinthians, which, fuck Paul. Who the fuck cares about Paul? Fuck Paul. Make no mistake, no fornicator or idolater, none who are guilty of idolatry or homosexual perversion will possess the kingdom of God. And Graham also said that being queer, I hate using the word homosexuality. It just feels like dehumanizing. Being queer was an ungodly spirit of self-gratification. And then he later said, we traffic in homosexuality at the peril of our spiritual welfare. Your affection for another of your own sex is misdirected and will be judged by God's holy standards. Fuck your holy standards if they lead you to being a anti-Semitic piece of shit. And the website of Billy Graham Evangelical Association, BGEA, continues this legacy, okay? Having a section on homosexual relationships that says that marriage is only between a man and a woman, according to Leviticus. Leviticus? You're gonna set our today's standards on Leviticus? Okay. And the website has a post that is from 2004 that says, are homosexuals born that way? And it says, many homosexuals hold to the belief that they were born that way, and there are some researchers who suggest on the basis of several recent studies that there may be a genetic predisposition towards homosexuality in some people. However, even those who argue this belief that certain environmental factors would also have to be present for this tendency to develop. In any case, other scientists have challenged these studies, and there is presently no generally accepted scientific evidence that the homosexual inclination is inborn. Also, in a broken world, the discovery of a genetic link would not prove that such a condition was God's intent. I just want to point this out. They said some scientists believe that, the scientists we agree with don't, but even if everybody decided that that was true, we still wouldn't believe it because God didn't say it. You all sound so fucking unintelligent. It hurts me to read the words that you write. It must be emphasis that even if a biological predisposition to homosexuality in some people exists, it would not change God's opposition to his behavior. Neither would it change the fact that through the transforming power of Jesus Christ, freedom from sinful behavior is always available. And they continue on with this trend of fucking conversion therapy, which I just want to say up front is pseudoscientific, period. There is no debate. It is pseudoscience. And it's also a human rights violation. But your religion tells you that you have to. Now, this is why I say fuck your religion. In addition, many strugglers discover growing heterosexual attractions as they address underlying problems with the help of competent Christian support and counseling. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's a lie. You're lying. You don't believe in science. You only believe in God. I mean, you just said it. Graham was a believer in conversion therapy, believing that you could be cured from being queer, encouraging people to work with Exodus International, which was a conversion therapy group, which I will do a video on. And his website still has an entire page dedicated to conversion therapy, talking about a reference to Practical Guide to Overcoming Homosexuality. It's so weird. I am pansexual, so I am just attracted to people. I don't have a preference, and if I were to go to conversion therapy, I would have a really good chance of being brainwashed into believing that one of my attractions was sin and one was not. And then you could, you know, if I were still in this cult, be convinced that I just needed to marry a man and that any thoughts I had about women were just the devil. I feel very badly for people who don't experience like multi-spectrum attraction, who are only attracted to like, you know, one gender, because I don't know how they would deal with such a thing. They're just going to think that, well, I guess we do know because Jackie Hill Perry exists and my heart breaks for her. And the website even talks about like success stories. It's disgusting. God didn't make you this way. The enemy is another word we use for Satan. I said we again. Oh my God. The enemy is feeding you lies and you're watching society, which is convincing you in your mind. Block out the world and go to him. It's just the other side of the coin. So the world made me gay, but if I only stick to the fundy world, then I can ungay myself. You guys tell on each other, on yourselves every time. And in 1993, his quote on AIDS made a lot of people understandably upset. He was doing a sermon in Columbus, Ohio, and during the closing of this crusade, 44,000 people heard Billy Graham say, "Is AIDS a judgment of God? I could not say for sure, but I think so." He later retracted this, saying, "I don't believe that, and I don't know why I said it. I do believe God stands in judgment of all sins, but AIDS is a disease that affects people and is not a part of that judgment. To say God has judged people with AIDS would be very wrong and very cruel." Not would be, it was. You did that. Why are you saying it as if some mythical person might say it? You said it. You fucked up. I would like to say that I'm very sorry for what I said. He said he was very tired during the service and forgot to retract or clarify. Ah, yes. Fatigue. It's well known for making us all blame a medical crisis on an already marginalized community. Sure. Okay. It doesn't matter to me that he didn't mean to say it. What matters is, with his huge platform, this man perpetuated a harmful belief upon 44,000 people that many who followed and still follow him still believe. And it's not just this one thing either. His legacy harmed Jewish folks, black folks, queer folks, and also all women. Yes, it's time to talk about the stupidest shit you've ever heard of, the fucking Billy Graham rule. In 1948, Graham held a series of evangelistic meetings with other pastors, I think 3 other pastors in California, and they made some rules for themselves. And one of these rules was to avoid being alone with any woman in any context, including grabbing lunch, unless it was their wife, because of the danger of sexual immorality. You are telling on yourselves. They were like, we all knew of evangelists who get into trouble when they separate from their families, and we pledged to avoid any situation that we would have even the appearance of suspicion. And from that day on, I did not travel or meet or eat alone with any woman other than my wife. Except he did meet once with Hillary Clinton for lunch. Not involved in politics though. He's like super not interested in politics. To be fair, she did convince him after he was like, no, I don't have lunch with women, which at that point I would have been like, wow, go fuck yourself. But Hillary Clinton was like, well, we can go to a public place and just sit at a table alone. In 2017, this rule started to become called also the Mike Pence rule, because the US Vice President at the time, go fuck yourself, Mike Pence, also an evangelical, said, I never eat alone with my wife. I never eat alone with anyone except any woman except my wife, Karen. Her name is Karen. And he's like, I'll never attend any event that has alcohol unless my wife is with me. Don't worry, Mike. The only danger that anyone's in, if I'm in a room alone with you, is the danger of me kicking you repeatedly in the balls for being a spineless fucking scumbag. And Mike, unfortunately, is not an isolated incident. There's this Polish science fiction writer named Jacek Dukash who called this rule inevitable, said it was going to grow in popularity because of the Me Too movement and cancel culture. This is indicative of exactly how people think about women and how it's always women's responsibility to prevent men from being inappropriate, and old Billy is responsible for that legacy. And of course, it absolutely cannot be understated that he's responsible for his fucking son, Franklin, who's an enormous piece of fucking shit, a major Islamophobe who said after the September 11th attacks that he thought Islam was a very evil and wicked religion, and then 10 years later said Islam is a religion of hatred, a religion of war. I'm so sorry, didn't your dad tell Nixon to bomb Vietnam after working with Johnson to put out pro-war propaganda? Hello? Franklin? Are you fucking delusional? The answer is yes. I don't know why I even fucking asked. mask. He said that Muslims were going to claim the site of the World Trade Center as their property, as Islamic land, which is a weird as fuck and disgusting thing to say. And he said that the Obama administration was affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. We've brought in Muslims to tell us how to make policy toward Muslim countries, and many of these people we've brought in, I'm afraid, are under the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, Franklin, go fuck yourself. He also supported North Carolina Amendment 1, which was against same-sex marriage. Of course he was. He said, President Obama, in my view, has shaken his fist at the same God who created and defined marriage. It grieves me that our president would now affirm same-sex marriage, though I believe it grieves God even more. Why do I give a fuck what your sky daddy thinks? That's none of my business. I'm not part of your book club. In 2017, he spoke against a bill that would ban conversion therapy, referencing Leviticus. He's like, homosexuality is defined by God as a sin, an abomination. Then he also compared conversion therapy to conversion to Christianity. Then he also shat on Pete Buttigieg, who is a queer politician, saying he's a gay Christian. As a Christian, I believe the Bible, which defines homosexuality as a sin, something to be repentant of, not something to be flaunted, praised, or politicized. The Bible says marriage is between a man and woman, not two men, not two women. Again, I'm not part of your book club, so I don't care. He's also the biggest evangelical ally of Donald fucking Trump. I don't need to elaborate further. Billy Graham is responsible for everything he did and for his son. He is responsible for the legacy of harm that he left, that he created. I don't care about apologies. I care about what he did to fix this legacy before he died in 2018, which was nothing. You lived to be 100 fucking years old and you were still advocating for conversion therapy, a pseudoscientific practice rooted in not reality at all, that is categorized as a fucking human rights violation. You are a bad person, and if there is a hell, you are there. I don't care if he was more palatable than his son or Jerry Falwell. I'm not giving men a pass for not even doing the fucking bare minimum. So fuck you, Billy Graham. Wow, I really ended that on quite a spicy note, didn't I? Okay, so that was Authors Behaving Badly, Billy Graham. So if anybody ever references Billy Graham to you, now you know exactly who the fuck he is. Next time I'm at my mom's house, I will take a picture of all the Billy Graham books on their bookshelf and upload them to the community tab so you can see like just how much Billy Graham is up in the household that I grew up in. And I'm sure that if my father, who I don't speak to, is watching this, he is appalled because he didn't work with Billy Graham, but he worked with people like Billy Graham on things that were like the Crusades. So I'm sure he's upsetty spaghetti, and I really don't care. Fuck homophobes. Fuck anti-Semitic people. Fuck people who say conversion therapy is a good idea. Okay? Okay. Thanks so much for watching. I'm gonna go cool off because actually, like, Billy Graham makes me really fucking heated. If there is a hell, I bet that Billy Graham is there, and I bet it's not a lake of fire, but instead it's just him having to watch this video with me and all this gay shit, just watching it on a loop forever and ever. Amen. I love that. I love that for me. Anyway, fuck you, Billy. Leave your comments and questions down below. Let me know if you are familiar with Billy Graham and what effect he had on your life, if any. If you grew up Fundy, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your stories that are Billy Graham related or Franklin Graham related, I guess, if you want to talk about that fucker. Thanks so much for watching. Link to the shirt. I am not affiliated with this company. I just love them. It is downstairs, okay, in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I know I keep saying that, but seriously, it's very therapeutic to just yell about these fuckers, isn't it? Okay. See you next time. Bye. Hello, it's me. Oh my god. I have to stop putting my bun inside. Wow, that, okay. Oh, wow, she really goes. Okay, sure. All right. Well, this is, oh my god. This is the most trash can that Trash Can Rachel can get. Hi, it's me, Trash Can Rachel, and I'm here to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons in the most awkward fucking way possible. I'm so sorry. And those patrons are Alexander, Allie Magpie, Ashley, Bubble Tea, Cami, Chris, Claire, Des Roberts, DJ Raptopus, Aaron, Eric, Auror, Jack and Jill, John E, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Caitlin, Kelly K, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lex, Molly, Alice, Peggy Lou, Rain, Reese, Samar, Scarlett, Shiny, and SMK. Thank you so much for being a friend and staying with me as I am this.
Before I go, I also have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are AM Angel, Alicia, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Aubrey P, Ava, BB, Beck, Blythe, Bookish Brain Rot, Bookmark Chronicles, Bree, Brian, Caitlin, Harlan, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Corey, Deborah, Diet Goth, Dorothea, Evie, Elise, Ember, Emily A, Emily L, Emma O A, Aaron, Grace, Hannah, Hannah C, Hannah T, Harpy Kuro, Hello There Darling, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jackal All Trades, Jay's on Olympus, JT, Jen with 2 N's, Jennifer T, Jenny G, Jillian, Jules, Kaylee, Kat, Katie, Katya, Kayala, Kendra, Kylie, Laughing Cat Dog, Lauren B, Library of Scars, Lisa, Lou, Luna Moth, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Marcella, Marquita, Maz, Malara, Meow Meow, James, Nat, Natalie, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige E, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pixel Stars, Purathion, Rachel B, Rat Sarah, Reba, Rebecca, Ren, Robin, Rosie, Rowan, Other Rowan, Secoria, Sadie, Samantha, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shanae, Shannon, Shayna, Sean, Sierra, Stephanie, Talia, Real Dogs, Tina, Toast, Trash Can Teddy, Tito Phoenix, Valentine, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.